I have absolutely no idea where we're going with this. Dude, I can't believe that Adrian. No way. Not cool. Oh, wait, I mean, not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. Whatever. She is your manager. Would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the kniff you used at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. Convenience! See, she could have also easily planted the blood-covered button in your hakama. Huh, because she was the one that came to wake me up. Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan. No. I'm still pretty dang certain on it being the assassin, and you having hired said assassin. That would make way more sense. Although I do have to say, I am kind of confused about a couple things. Because the fact remains that somebody else was wearing your costume. And I guess it could really only have been her. So, I mean, she did something. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of the day. Give me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze. Okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude. Nay. We'll do no such thing. I mean, maybe I'll get the acquittal, but I don't know. Again, I'm caught between defending someone I think is guilty and the life of a friend, so... Phoenix! You think her motive is related to Celeste Impax's missing suicide note, right? Yee. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impax as her strength and reason to live. But then Miss Impax suddenly killed herself, which, by the way, messed up. Sounds like she left a suicide note and that person thought to have hidden it was Juan, victim of the murder. And that's why I think Miss Andrews got close to Miss Cordia. Well, to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about the relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Miss Impax. Well, that would have been Edgeworth. Yeah, it was Edgeworth, which means he knows about all of this stuff. Looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Don't let your guard down yet. My guard was never down, it was up. Sideways slightly, maybe. Doesn't matter. Okay. Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan's room. I don't know why I said it that way. I apologize. What is your occupation? I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt on guard. I see. Now then, before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request. Yeah, sure, what up? I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently. No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossip Land. If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all the work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relationship to the, relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Cordia. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan, but this was a private matter between Juan and myself. So it was a fry and bait matter, or was that bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing. But I didn't kill him. No one is accusing you of that. Well, I mean, technically, yeah. I think there's someone who would beg to differ. I mean, yeah, that would be me. Hello. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews. Very well, then. Witness, testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. When ye found the body. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room, as you do. After that, I went to Juan's room. Don't ask me why, it's none of your business. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was naturally the exact same scene as in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. Because that's something that's totally something would do. Somebody would do. Ugh. You poured yourself a glass of juice? Yes, sadly, I didn't remember not to touch the things at the scene of the crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix. She is one cool and collected customer, and she's got the brains to match. This is true, I am aware. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Disrupt her pacing? She's the type of woman who's easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking, so you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up on your offense is the instant this trial is over, understand? I get it, so I gotta throw her off for rhythm. I gotta take a money clip and throw it across the street. Go get it! Now I've thrown him off his rhythm. Sorry. I just love that. John Mulaney, look him up. Okay. After that. But why? Why'd you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was to make an appearance with the other heroes. So the show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? I don't think that actually means much, but... okay, I should back off. As long as I don't have any proof, she's not gonna talk. May we continue now? Witness, what did you see when you got to his room? Oh, I'll tell you what I saw. He was dead. I was in shock. So much shock that I decided to get a drink. You were in shock? What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. And despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for the Jammin' Ninja. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. Even you, Edgeworth? And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked, or not. Or even youth, for that matter. Edgeworth, calm your thirst. I see, yes. It's naturally the exact same scene. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? The one with the murder in it? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too? Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then, what did you witness? See, these are all things. I gotta pay attention to a little every detail of the things that are being said. Why would you do that? That's silly. Juice? Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. Because, as you all know, that's not gross. But you didn't drink any of it, did ya? Huh? And there were no lip marks left on this wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I'd like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. Convenient! Your mind was a blank? I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing. What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Well, I gotta press further. I'm throwing her off a rhythm! I'm gonna stop this metronome. Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that as you said, yeah, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what that mistake was. Actually, so would I. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm sorry, it's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over. Ooh, I like her pants. Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime photo? No, she's talking about the other one. What about all the other stuff that fell over? This mess of glass shards? It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess. I mean, true enough. Looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to your testimony. I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. Lies! The jury is still out on slander, but lies! Okay, and it fell onto the guitar case. So you're saying it fell onto the guitar case. But here's the problem with that. The outside of the case had liquid all over it. The inside, it ain't got nothing. Ain't got nothing at all. Not even the slightest bit of stuff. So how you gotta explain that, lady? You testified that you knocked the flower vase over, is this correct? Yes. And are you sure it fell onto the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem. It's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what's so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified the vase fell onto the guitar case. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. So what you gotta say about that? That is true. Furthermore, there's one other strange thing about this guitar case. And what's that? Well, let's take another look at the crime scene photo. I'm sure glad Phoenix knows where we're going with this. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. And what's wrong with that? If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, well, let me tell you, the glass shards should be inside, not outside the case. Ah! What are you objecting? What's your point, right? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over? Is that all? Indeed! No, or not. Okay, never mind. I take back the no. Whatever. Think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else. Nargin. Yeah, I mean, that is true. She did implicitly say she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all. That may very well be, however... the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to the case, doesn't it? Well, clearly it does! And the fact that you showed weakness is all it takes to end it. Seems that there is no deeper meaning into the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about it? Yeah. The empty guitar case. I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this. But it is you. I can't believe I'm doing this either. I don't know why either of us are surprised. It's kind of my entire MO. Alright, I'll follow along for now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case. Yes, Your Honor. The guitar case! I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know. Okay, except there's another problem with that. Looks like this really wasn't a very important point. This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. Using any way to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man. Oh, I'm sorry. Have you been tased? I don't think you have. Phoenix has. Okay. Except... Nay. It didn't explicitly say it only has... Yeah, it's only got his, so... Again, I throw the guitar case at your face. There's no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Ain't got no fingerprints on that thing, y'all. Because the only fingerprints on this guitar case are those of the victim. Which means it got knocked over, and then it got opened? By him? But why? What is it, Miss Andrews? You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time? Gloves? Why would you be wearing gloves at the time? It was the night of the award ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves. Huh, I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves. Yeah, that is kind of weird considering the fact that we just made a big honkin' deal about the fingerprints on the frickin' wine glass. Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? She says as if I don't have that exact thing. I have your proof right here, this wine glass. The wine glass? You left your fingerprints very clearly on the wine glass. Ah! Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you'd put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Ah! Oh, damn, her glasses, oh, never mind, she's okay. She had spare. She had a spare. I appreciate the forward thinking. Order, order, order! Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. What do you mean? I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here, but it's just an empty case. Just because the guitar wasn't in it doesn't mean somebody didn't shove something else in there. Lordy, could have hid an entire armory of guns inside that thing if they wanted to. But the bright red guitar was at the studio. Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. Yes, there is no guitar, but that doesn't mean somebody tried to El Kabong a fool. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar. You don't mean it was a bright white guitar? Wait, no, that's not right. Phoenix, come on, man. I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves despite the fact on the case, and now he's yelling. Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided, shut your face! No, Your Honor, please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell into the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. So why? However, it's wide open in the photo of the crime scene. So what's up with that? I am sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you're so sure, right, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please, enlighten us as to why the guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder. Go. Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Well, let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case. So how about that? The bright red guitar not being the only thing? You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar was... Oh, Judge. So you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty? Is that it, right? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Really? We're gonna talk about egos in this room right now? Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder? The only thing I can possibly think would be... Where is that photo? Okay, maybe this is good enough. Picture taken in the hallway. It was. I think it was the costume. Like it was a costume in the case. This is a photograph. Look at this photograph. Yes, but what is important is what is in that picture, Your Honor. In the picture. It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I am proposing is simple. Inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? That was a very undignified noise you just made, Edgeworth. Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Wright, are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. Explaining why it was, you know, not fitting the person that was walking out of the door. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? Oh, hello. I refuse to accept your theory on the basis of I don't care. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop, an ice cream scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? You mean this photo? Indeed. What you gonna say about that? Order, order! Looks like we've wandered in quite another mess again, haven't we? Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know, my strategy. Speak first, think later. I think there might be a second and third step before the think, but you know what I mean. So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume. Objection. Yes, okay. Wait 1 second, Your Honor. This buffoonery shall not commence. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt Onguard's. Why would something of that defendant's be in the victim's room? And inside the guitar case of all places. This is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case? Well, I mean, he was wearing it when he got arrested, so I guess it would have had to have been a spare. Mr. On Guard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we're talking about was a spare one. What? Are you trying to tell me that there are spare costumes? What are the odds? Then are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel? Yeah. Yes, that is what I am saying. I love that animation. It's so awkward. And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case? It would mean that the victim himself had brought this spare to the ceremony on purpose. But why? The victim, he was the Jammin' Ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act? And therein lies the sticking point. What are you mumbling to yourself about now? With my shaky eyes. Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue? Who told you? Huh? No, Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think that the victim had the Nickel Samurai spare costume? Phoenix, sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer. And the answer with gusto. Oh, and then answer it with gusto. I believe in you! The inflated breasts of justice are on your side! There, had to get that out of the way. Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was... Well, none of this stuff makes any sense. The only thing that... Okay, so I think... I remember On Guard saying that he didn't know about no press conference. And how apparently the Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. So... slide onto the table? What is this? On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a press conference. A press conference? Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right? I don't make up anything! But what struck me as strange was that Mr. On Guard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. But how can that be? The way I see it, that could mean only one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan himself. The victim? Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Cordia was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai, and I guess everyone was just kind of hoping that the voice, they wouldn't notice a different voice? I don't know, maybe it was dubbed in the show, so who knows. He's gonna dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference? Why would the victim do such a thing? That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt On Guard. I mean, I guess that is what it would mean. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's public disclosure. Okay, well, congratulations on your semantics. Miss Andrews, I could see why you're pros at what you do. Pardon? Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan. Oh my god, we're murmuring about this. Miss Andrews, please offer an explanation for this, or I shall slappeth you up something silly. And that was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him, that was also me. You? Juan had bet everything on the Jammin' Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was gonna make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway. He was going to ruin him, huh? It looked like somehow Juan had in his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. Could this secret theoretically be a established relationship with an assassin? Because that would answer a lot if it was. And do you know what the secret of Mr. On Guard's is, Miss Andrews? That's something only Juan knew. I I don't know what it is. Oh, well, ain't that convenient. I've probably been coming off as quite suspicious to everyone due to all of my suspicious things. But that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt after all. Protect Mr. On Guard? How does that make any sense? And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could please tell us the truth about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor, I understand. Alright, fine. How were you protecting him? From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. If the defense can find no fault with this testimony, I'm ready to make a ruling. Please keep in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again, because life is a never-ending cycle of horrors for Phoenix Wright. Ugh. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. In West Clonadelphia, born and raised. This is how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Sorry. Okay. I mean, I guess I can understand. That does make sense. I mean, he was napping. That's not a very good alibi. Now, what y'all mean about this, though? What you mean about this, though? You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought, and during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume. You're talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the pleats of Matt's hakama. Ain't that correct? I think that makes it a very decisive evidence. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. I wasn't outfoxed, I was merely platypied. I don't know. None of your business. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Why are you looking at me like that? And goodness me, it can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. How can you read minds? Is it because you're a ghost? Is it a ghost power? Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. The button was torn off to Juan during his fight with Matt. Except... that doesn't make any sense. He was stabbed after the fight was long over. Like, he was already dead when he got stabbed, so how does that work? This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. So yeah, the knife don't prove nothing. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Well, let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off the costume when? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly! Which means, desk slam of fortitude, it's impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight! Ah! That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead body. Ain't that coinky-dinky-ol? Order, order! What is the meaning? Objection, sir! What is the meaning of this right? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does this change? Let me ask you one simple question, Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? Yeah, I mean, See, the thing is, all of this appears to be true. But it wouldn't make sense. Because then why is there a whole assassin kidnapping, blackmail thingamaragaroo? I don't get it. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Ongard. There's no way anyone would put a bloodied button in their own pants. Unless they were a freak. That's right, Mr. Ongard was set up. By the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is... Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer, then? I think I already told you? Finally. Can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame him, is quite literally the person I was already accusing in the first place, so... Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you! Apparently you're a Pokemon now. You are Mr. Corgia's killer. What? Oh, dang, you broke her spares. Order! Mr. Wright, this is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews? Like, oh, hey, she has them back. She had a second pair? Wow. How preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Matt Ongard, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And you're the only person who could be in there other than him. And he knew which knife to take. That was you. Oh, that's a third pair. Oh, all right, she had 4. Then, what about the button that was found in Matsukama? You mean the thing I just proved? The button was removed from the victim's body after he'd already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Ongard was the real killer, then why the hell would he even do that? That basically makes no sense. There's no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own Hakama. And that makes 5. 5 pairs of glasses, The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Ongard's Hakama is the person who went to wake him up from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the guitar case? Oh, let me tell you about the guitar case. That's also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim, which was her! And that person is you, Adrian Andrews. Okay, see, now she's crying, and I know that she's not... I don't think she did. I don't know what she did, but she didn't. I'm starting to feel bad. But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found in the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. Well, I mean, that is true. Nay, I say, apparently. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. Boom! Throwing it out there. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. That's 6. And to top it all off, there's this photo. Are you seeing this photo? The photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Ongard. He'd be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also of short in stature, are you not? Please stop. Nay! I'm about to get real aggressive. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? Uh-huh. I've got her this time. Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Is she pleading the 5th? Well, yes, you are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination. by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ungard's room. Ah, she was given legal advice. Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed, understood? All right. Interesting. That's it. That's when Franziska planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things looked bad. Did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. But there is still one thing you haven't done. What I didn't do. What's wrong, right? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What's so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proved up to this point is meaningless. How so? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Cordia. Oh, you mean a motive. I mean, I got that too. Miss Andrews, you! Did you want to kill this man? I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No, she's taking the defiant attitude again. Man, what do I do? Somehow we've landed in the worst possible situation. Ow. I stubbed my toe on a speaker. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify. And the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. But that's not true! In this situation, there's only one thing this court can do. And that is to declare a recess. Recess? Again? A request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter. And at tomorrow's trial... Tomorrow! Sorry, not an option. Can't have it. No, thank you. We don't have a tomorrow. If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... I'm desperate! Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdicts, then Maya... Eyebrow raised? But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is... It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Holy crap, are you helping me? Did you sniff something odd about this situation? Mr. Edgeworth, what are you... It's true, Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation were something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. That is true, yes, but... Actually, there is one little thing I'm curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yeah? And I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Thank you! Usually when one finds a body, they're shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual. But I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Testify! Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. So what are you gonna do about that? I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know. I like to think he's... At least... He had no reason to make this continue. So he had to have been doing that at least that to help me, I feel. The ... question mark after Phoenix talked about Maya. The glass of juice. I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. Interesting. So you poured the glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with the testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that gigantic brain of yours? Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin the cross-examination. Okay. Well, I can think of one problem with this. Okay, so you had no way of knowing. Or, like, the idea that he was dead didn't even cross your mind. Despite the fact that he had a knife in his chest? That didn't seem odd to you? So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body. With a knife in his chest. And bleeding. What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There's a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Corgia's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man, or at the very least, an injured man. Well, you see, I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted, unless they fainted from being stabbed, and then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink. Your point is? Miss Andrews, your testimony just now is it was all one giant lie. And another pair down. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer. Oh, there was some emotion behind that one. I wasn't expecting that. Looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Ungard, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible. You're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt, I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. Then you're going to be arrested, you realize. Then there's no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt Guard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Which would imply that they aren't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Matt Ungard. Except Edgeworth gives no dams! Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. Top. The witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. What you talking about, Iggy? The absolute real truth? What are you? Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Ungard will go free. And in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. Why don't you believe him? That's actually fact. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Franziska von Karma. Eh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another. because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss Von Karma. Don't say a word no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Ongard will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now and is clinging on to them. Then what do I do? This is the first time I've come across something like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get our not guilty. That is my priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me I didn't kill Juan. Help. Please, someone help. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? The court can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right? I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't it obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there, right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? The kind of man that really wants to know the truth, I guess? I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making a face like that. That's the face of hopeless despair, y'all. The kind of thing that happens when nobody believes you and you're being accused of things. Phoenix, remember your backstory. Miss Andrews, I'd like to know what you're really hiding. Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing? Sure, Mr. Ongard would get an acquittal, but in his place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want the trial to end? Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me. That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. One more swarmy trick is here. What a shame! I had hoped things wouldn't come to this, however. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop. Holy hell, dude, are you gonna... Oh, no. Mr. Edgeworth? This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness? Okay, wow. That is the one thing she didn't want people to know. That's a hell of a way to get someone into doing something. What? And because of this illness, she had tried to commit suicide in the past. Stop, please stop. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. Damn! The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please stop, I beg you. If people find out, I'll... If you're gonna say you would choose death, that is no of... wow! Holy crap! Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? I don't care if you kill yourself. Tell me. However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips, no matter what I have to do. Well, that's disturbing. So will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either's fine with me. I'll talk, but please help me. Nothing matters anymore. Yeah, this is an emotionally damaged woman who is definitely being put through the ringer in a way that she doesn't deserve. This is not great. When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted, honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. And that's why I ended up using the Nickel Samurai costume. Stab the body? With a knife? Why would you do that? Isn't it obvious to pin the blame on a certain person? A certain cowardly man. Ugh. What do you mean by all of this? It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth. The real killer is Matt. That scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time. Last time? Y'all trying to tell me he's got something to do with the thing that's causing you so much strife? So Miss Andrews stabbed the victim in the chest with the knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt on guard for the murder. And this is her crime. She didn't commit murder, but what she did do was tamper with the scene of a crime. What? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer? Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination. I don't know if there's really anything for me to pick apart here. I mean, yeah, if he was strangled and slumped over and not stabbed yet, you would think he had just fainted. But you could tell from the state the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say that you didn't know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. But that scarf is part of the Jammin' Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up and went to pour the juice. I don't like that I'm doing this. What is this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Juan, he was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin the crime on Matt. Because I guess otherwise it wouldn't have immediately drawn to him. So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and button. The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife. That was so you could get the knife, correct? The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. And I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped the button off. So you were the one to stab the victim with that knife. It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect. So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and then plant it in Mr. On-Guard's Hakama. Yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they? Most certainly. An inconvenience? There was a woman with a camera at the ready loitering in the hallway. I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lotta. There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready pacing back and forth. And that's Miss Oldbag for you. I'd already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again. So you put on the costume, and that just so happened to also help out with the whole frame job. You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you? Yeah, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the award ceremony. You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct? Yes. Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there. And what is this secret? That, I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, then people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume. I think we've heard enough. So, after that, you went back to Mr. Onguard's room and planted the button. Into Matsukama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it. My word. What does all this mean? Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt Onguard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk. Franziska. She said that I should under no circumstances confess to what I've done. And if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. Well, that is true. But technically that also means all of the evidence that actually directly points to Matt has been proven to be falsified. So in the eyes of the court and the law, we're just kind of back to square one and have no idea what anything is, what's true and what's not. I had no choice but to believe in her words. That's just sad. What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she's not the real killer. Wait, Your Honor! The defense still... Okay, we're being objected. Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it's not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish that the witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright. But... Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning. Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately. That is all. Court is adjourned for today. Wow, that was a hell of an echo. And no one else is here. Yeah, that's not good. Today's trial is over. And I didn't win an acquittal. Witness, would you mind if I asked you something? Wait, Edgeworth? What is it? Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. That card in your hand. It's had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remember just now. I found this in the room on that day. The room? That day? Yeah. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying there right next to him. And you just decided to take it? I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right? Yeah, I guess not, but it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue to this case, well, I don't see why... Witness! That card! Give it to me, hurry! Edgeworth? Do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done? I can't believe you hid this from me all this time! I didn't mean to! What is this all about? I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before. Not even when he got accused of murder, actually. Yeah, that is weird. That card, what in the world is it? What does it mean? Other than seashells. And is Maya dead or not? I don't know. Did I do a bad?